Episode 2 begins back in modern day, where Daniel Malloy and Louis continue their interview over a multi-course dinner. Louis continues the story right after Lestat had killed the two priests earlier. They hide the bodies, and Lestat teaches Louis about how vampires can only really drink blood from living fiends, as blood from dead fiends kind of messes with them in some way. They go back to Lestat's place and try to figure things out a bit. Of course, Louis is resistant again, and he kind of runs off a bit while it's daylight, and he ends up getting burnt by the sun, and he goes back to Lestat's place, and he finally, learns that sunlight messes you up. So he, heals him a little bit and offers him a coffin and basically makes a bottom and top joke. After a while, they get things back on track. Louis is trying to do his business stuff again. He tries to buy a nightclub, to somewhat belittled success, as the guy he's trying to buy it from is not too kind to him because of his race. So impulsively, Louis kills the man and drinks his blood, and Lestat has to help him, get rid of the body. After a while, Louis, finds a better buyer, and he finally has his nightclub years later. After that, he visits his family again. Obviously, things are still cold between him and his mother, but with his sister is a lot better. With his vampire powers, he finds out that his sister is not only pregnant, but pregnant with twins, which him mentioning that kind of astonishes his sister for obvious reasons. He kind of does a similar thing with his mother, where he reads her mind, and he kind of mentions his sunglasses as she thought about his sunglasses, which she said thought were weird. After that, we have a few other years skipped over, and the babies are born, and Lestat, while holding one of the babies while the sister is doing something else, he almost gives into his vampire cravings and almost feeds on the baby, but obviously does not, because that'd be very bad. There's some tension added to this because they cut back to modern day for a brief moment, continuing the dinner while Daniel is asking Louis if he fed on the baby, which of course they reveal that he didn't. But again, that's meant to add tension. And of course, Lestat kind of comforts him after that. They go to the opera, and Louis mentions that Lestat really likes music. It's one of those things that connects him with humans in a sort of way. But on this particular opera night, Lestat is kind of offended by one of the performers' performance. So after the show is over, he lures him over to their place, and instead of feeding on him, he just stabs him in the neck with his fingers and lets him bleed out a bit. And after a bit of talking, with Louis, Lestat feeds on the guy and lets Louis feed on him. And that's kind of where the episode ends. Overall, this was a pretty good episode. About as good as the first one. Hoping it continues to get better and better as it goes on. Just like House of the Dragon. I think the pacing's a little better now that things are moving on after we got a little bit of establishment from earlier. There are also, little things in between major scenes in this episode that I didn't mention until now that I kind of liked. The modern day stuff where Daniel is having dinner with Louis was somewhat darkly humorous, as he's having normal human food while Louis is feasting on vampire type stuff like a cup of blood and a woodland creature to feed on. It's a little humorous. During the sort of modern day break they take in between, did he feed on the baby or not? Louis mentions that the last person he really fed on was in the 2000s, or in 2000, and Daniel makes a Y2K joke, and it's a little humorous, so I'm not gonna lie. And then other stuff like that, quite enjoyed. I think, the dynamic between Louis and Lestat is still pretty good, just like last episode. Which makes sense, because they're supposed to be this vampire power couple as it goes on, from what I've heard about the book. Though, who knows how this relationship truly unfolds in the book, because it might be a little different. So, if you're a big fan of the book, let me know any little details that might be a little different, and I'd be interested in hearing all that. I'm gonna give episode 2 an 8 out of 10. Well, I hope you enjoyed this review. Make sure to stay tuned for more Interview with a Vampire content. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a good day. Goodbye.